and welcome to Pricing College with your hosts, Aidan Campbell
and Joanna Wells.
In today's episode, we want to discuss that very common type of business where how the business is run is almost upside down or reverse. So rather than in the episode we covered with Apple, where it's all very customer focused and really looking into the value that's provided to customers, it's done the complete opposite way, whereby it's almost like Kevin Costner in Field of Dreams: build it and they will come.
Yeah, and literally a lot of businesses have been obviously built in that way. We're going to set up our business in this way, and our operations are going to be like this. And then from here, we'll set our prices accordingly to cover our costs. I'm thinking in particular examples like fuels, postal services, those two in particular, even energy, we're all set up thinking about their operational network, the CAPEX, machinery, etc. And then pricing is sort of like an afterthought, literally to cover costs with the margin on top, simple cost-based pricing. And now we're seeing, these traditional businesses that are very operational, internal focused, are now transforming, and this is having a huge impact on how they're pricing as well.
Yeah, I think that a lot of these issues, they stem from a cost plus focused, accountancy driven focus in a business where people think, oh, I'm spending a CAPEX, that means I'm very important, that means I'm in charge of stuff. So there's a heavy machinery aspect, whether it's trucks, whether it's factories, whether it's docks, whatever it could possibly be. But you're not really looking at why does the company exist? The company does not exist to justify your position. It doesn't just exist to justify, CAPEX. CAPEX is only there to justify providing something that a customer is willing to pay for once off or on an ongoing basis. So in reality, if you're saying build it and they will come, potentially that will happen. You obviously have to build it, but there's no feedback mechanism. There's nothing. The actual drivers that are leading to what's been built, often they're quite opaque. If you're in charge of the CAPEX, if you're deciding what to be built, how is sales, how is marketing, how is pricing really feeding into that? Or is it just that pricing and sales get beaten up if they don't sell enough of the product that you want to sell, and it's always their fault for not doing the job well enough? I think every salesperson knows this, whereby their product or service is inferior, but they feel they're always getting shouted at internally or on the back foot. So I think it's almost, if you set it up in the reverse order, it's almost an inevitability that the sales team will be under pressure and will eventually get browned off.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think when that starts to happen, rather than sort of blaming your sales team for not winning the deal, I think sometimes it's probably an indication that you've got to look internally and think, actually, is our business model correct for the market that we're in? Are our operations antiquated and from a yesteryear model? Do we need to optimize our operations now? Is that why we're not getting the more margin from our product, from our main source of value from this company? And I'd say maybe 70% of the time, if you asked yourself that question, you'd actually find that is the question. That's the answer, that you actually have a great business, but now the operations are outdated, and you've got to start thinking differently about how you're going to deliver that value to your customers, because potentially what you're doing is too costly. And this is why I mentioned fuels as an example. I mean, a number of fuels companies around the world now have optimized their operations. They've changed how they do business. They've gone from a refinery business to now a more customer-focused retailer. That's a huge change. And the reason being, why did they do that? Well, if they continue to think of themselves as a refinery, it's huge costs, operational costs, production costs, drilling, refining that oil. It takes huge amount of effort, and it gravitates the whole business into thinking, how are we going to cover our costs? So now what they've done, they've basically optimized the procurement process and sourcing refined oil from around the world and literally distributing it via boats across to Australia and various countries around the world. to cut costs. So that made them also think, well, if we've cut our costs, how can we maintain our pricing? Well, you've got to think about the value of that product in the market, and you've got to think of yourself differently as a business. What are you actually selling now? And they realized, actually we're selling fuel, but we're also selling convenience from our stores. People want to come in when they buy their fuel and grab, products from our store, milk, bread, nappies, whatever, and we should be pricing that accordingly and getting a premium. So it completely transformed the business. So prior to that, the sales team from the B2B side would have been blamed for not getting the deals across the line in the old model as a refinery business. But now it's a seamless model, and the whole business is looking at how they can optimize revenues by rethinking their operations, rejigging things around, rather than thinking about pricing as an afterthought, thinking about as an integrated within the whole transformation process.
Yeah, I think two of my points I'll make here at the end here. I suppose the first one is a lot of people go, oh, but you need to be a visionary. You need to really come up with something new, that the market will want. And, that's where operational excellence comes in. Maybe some of the more scientific people, the real product improvement people come in. The old famous saying is, Henry Ford, if I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. And of course, that is completely true, and there are visionaries out there. What I will say is there aren't that many. There are very, very few, and those are the ones who build huge businesses that are incredibly successful with newfangled ideas. The reality of it is 99 point something percent of companies aren't that business, and they are, that's more of it's not really a relevant topic. Obviously, there has to be a feedback loop. The other thing I'll say is if it's purely run by operations and sales are not being listened to, how do you improve the process? How do you tinker with it and make it better? If there's no feedback into it, why would the operations improve it? Because obviously you can, from a CAPEX and a accounting perspective, it's cheaper just to churn out the same old thing rather than reinventing, putting money into R&D, etc. Why would you do that if you don't have to? So fundamentally, if you're not listening to customers, we always talk about customer centricity. It's almost a buzzword, it's almost a cliche. But yeah, fundamentally, you only exist, you're only doing things because somebody somewhere wants that product or service at the end of the line, and everything else is just a delivery mechanism.
Yeah, and I think just because I say, you can have visionaries in operations that transform business models and integrate pricing within that doesn't mean that visionary didn't think about the market, the customer, because thinking back about the example I gave with fuels, what the question they had to ask is, do our customers really value really great quality fuel as much as we assumed they do? Because that's what our old operational refinery models built on. We want to get the best quality petrol and fuel out there, and what they found was actually no. Customers wanted fuel that was good quality, good enough. But what they actually wanted was an experience, a better experience at the pump, at the petrol station. They wanted a store that could go in and guarantee would stock what they actually wanted to buy at that particular time. Convenience. They want convenience. They want the experience, a good experience, not like just a transactional, experience in a dirty sort of petrol station. They want it all. So these questions drove operational changes, and from there all these other innovations in operations occurred. And once people, and then you get that sort of epiphany moment when you go, aha, this is where pricing actually drives and is highly connected to operational business model changes. It's not an add-on thought where we just go, oh, we've covered our costs and let's now just have a markup to just reach our margins. No, it became a driving force, a factor, a driver that actually encouraged consumers and influence consumers to spend more or differently, consume more, think differently about the products, think differently about the business. Look, I think it's a great question in terms of how much do operations influence a business? They still do to stay. And I think the takeaway I would say is don't let it overrule thoughts, because in a way it makes you become more internal focused, and all you think, I just have to do these operations really, really well, much better than anyone else to win the market. That's just not the case anymore. You've got to think about different industries, new innovations, what customers want, and then question how you function and work as a business and evolve.
Yeah, I think that's it for me. I think we're going to cover a similar topic, dig into a bit more detail in our next episode. So we look forward to speaking to you then.
Okay, thanks a lot.